Thank you so much for that introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a privilege to be here. I'm excited to moderate this session with the founders of Licious. But before I do that, let me put in the context right here. These two gentlemen, they exited their careers, flourishing careers in finance and the VC ecosystem. They were disowned by their families for choosing to sell meat. And they even had to shut operations for 24 hours flat when they first began. They were even shunned by most investors due to their personal biases. But here you have the two gentlemen. They are, of course, the meat men of India, and they want to be the Tesla of the meat industry. Of course, there is still some time before Elon Musk sets shop in India and announces that big investment. But here you have Abhay Hanjura and Vivek Gupta, now the proud owners of $1 billion startup Licious, also that is India's first D2C unicorn right here. How have they been able to blaze new trails? How have they been able to make a successful D2C brand? We'll take all of those lessons from these two gentlemen here. And of course, after my discussion is done, we'll of course be taking questions from the audience. So keep those questions ready. I'll come first to you, Abhay. You know, you've done nothing sort of revolutionary. I mean, speaking of getting disowned by your family, do you want to throw some light on that episode? And has your father come back around? And what did it really take for you to build a unicorn in an ecosystem, in a sector that has a lot of taboos attached to it? You actually brought out meat out of that quintessential black polythene. How did it all happen?
So that's a loaded question. There are a lot of questions in that question. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for having us here. I'll try and maybe attempt half of this question, and maybe I'll leave the rest to my significantly better half, who's now been separated by Sumita. So हम generally साथ में बैठते हैं, आप बीच में आ गए हो. पहले तो इतने सारे सूट बूट और कोट वाले लोगों को नमस्कार. हम टी शर्ट में हैं, हमें पता नहीं था यहाँ पे सूट वूट पहन के आना है. But yeah, my father, so we are Kashmiri Pandits, and I remember when I spoke to my father in Kashmiri, you know, he said that ये चुन ऐसी शोभान, मतलब ये काम हमें शोभा नहीं देता है. तो जब उन्होंने ऐसा मुझे कहा ना, तो मतलब मेरी आत्मा की जो सिगड़ी है उसमें जो चिंगारी लग गई और आग सी लग गई. मैंने कहा ये मेरे पढ़े लिखे पिताजी हैं, IAS अफसर हैं, दुनिया देखिए, सब समझ आता है. और बाय द वे वो ना कुछ मटन कबाब खाते खाते ही मेरे को कह रहे थे ये हमें शोभा नहीं देता है. तो एक हाथ में ड्रिंक था, एक हाथ में मटन कबाब था, और ऐसे बोल रहे थे हमें शोभा नहीं देता है. सो आई थिंक द पॉइंट बीइंग, I think it was in that pivotal moment that at least I realized that the path of building Licious will not be so much about building a business, but it will be about changing the mentality of a nation towards a category which long deserved its due in the sun. And therefore that became exciting. So to this date, what's exciting for both of us is the fact that you know, today thousands and thousands of farmers, you know, hundreds of fishermen are seeing hope in a sector which was otherwise forgotten in a kali theli में हिंदुस्तान में, by the way, sanitary pad, condom और शराब मिलती है और उसके साथ मीट मिलता है. तो ये पूरे देश के लिए एक सवाल है कि आखिर क्यों ये देश का जो मीट ईटिंग कंज्यूमर है उसको नॉन वेजिटेरियन क्यों बुलाया जाता है. अगर आप सुमीता हैं तो आपको नॉन रेखा नहीं बुलाया जाता. तो ये सवाल इस देश को अपने आप से पूछने की ज़रूरत है कि ऐसा क्यों. And therefore, I think what it took for us to really sort of be here and talk to you is just zid yaar, zid और बहुत सारा जुनून. I think and we both had nothing to lose, and maybe, you know, from here I can give it to Vivek, because जहाँ भी हम गए ना, हमको सिर्फ हंसी मजाक और खिल्लियाँ ही मिली कि यार तुम कहाँ से आ गए. मतलब एक गंजा और एक बाल वाला, ना तुम IIT हो ना तुम IIM हो, तुम्हें कुछ पता नहीं है. तो आई थिंक इट वाज दैट you know, that rejection which gave us purpose. Vivek, maybe you can sort of take it from there.
Vivek, was it really rejection? I mean, how did it all start? Was it just as simple as two, acquaintances or friends meeting each other over coffee, or did it have more to do with rejection? And of course, Abhay was mentioning about his personal story. What was your trigger?
I think it is mix of everything. So I spent 10 years in a VC and used to give money to others. And मेरे को हमेशा लगता था कि यार somebody should give money to me also. मुझ में भी है वो करने का जज्बा. And this happened second time. So 2012 I decided to leave and I couldn't. I was so scared. And in 2015 when he came to my door with this idea, I knew that Helion तो पैसे नहीं देगा. And over that conversation, over 6 conversations in 2 months, I realized something unique about India. Okay, and maybe all of us just don't appreciate that fact. We think India is a vegetarian country. This vegetarian country consumes 3 lakh crore worth of meat in a year. 75% of Indians consume meat. So actually vegetarians are, maybe minority, right? And on the production side also, by the way, we are world's largest egg producer, second, third largest chicken producer. In India exports $12 billion of fishes. There's insane amount of people who work in this sector. So much happens. And at the end of the day, that meat gets sold in gutter. There is no other food item you consume. If you actually go to those meat markets, you don't feel like eating. But the sector is there and we have done nothing about it. Everything has been branded, organized, packet, milk has been organized, everything has been done. Just this sector, we always worry actually why the sector has been left behind. Maybe somewhere our hypocrisy is not letting the sector come out. So,
Abhay, you want to comment on the cultural hypocrisy? I think you have spoken in your earlier interactions as well that this was, also coming in from an ideological position as well, that you wanted to fight the cultural hypocrisy.
I mean, look, every entrepreneur needs a villain maybe in their life or a demon in their minds to sort of fight a battle, right? And Vivek and I realized very early on, by the way, we never wanted to build Licious online. ऐसा कोई सपना नहीं था हमारा. We ended up offline because online because nobody wanted to carry a meat product offline. I remember somebody telling us कि a very large reputed modern trade chain guy saying, अरे अगर हमने ये पनीर के साथ में यहाँ पे अगर चिकन रख दिया तो हमारे गुजराती customers क्या कहेंगे? So such was the attitude, that trade was unwilling to carry the product, right? And if it was available, it was in some, in the cornermost sort of corner, lying in a freezer, expiry date has been passed, and, in some 1% focus, 1% revenue kind of a condition, almost sort of notional. And it seemed very strange, you're like, oh God. In fact, it was then that we said, you know what, if we are so committed to wanting to do what we want to do, then you know what, we'll find a way to reach the consumer. And that's how we became direct to consumer. We said, okay, if you don't want to carry us, we'll carry ourselves. And that meant building India's first last mile cold chain network. उन दिनों सुमिता कोई भी नया आया था, स्विगी वगैरह, तो लोगों को, और डोमिनोज तो था, बट लोगों रेस्टोरेंट से गर्मा गर्म खाना निकलता था और लूक वार्म आपके घर पे पहुंचता था. तो हॉट खाना ट्रांसपोर्ट करने की टेक्नोलॉजी थी, मीट पेरिशेबल था, तो किसी को पता ही नहीं था कि यार ठंडा बस्ता क्या होता है, हाउ कैन यू मेंटेन 0 to 4 degree टेम्परेचर. तो दिस वाज ऑल ग्रीक एंड लैटिन, फॉर द इंडस्ट्री. बट वी सेड, लुक, द पॉइंट इज दैट, एंड दिस वाज टू माय ओन डैड्स पॉइंट कि आई रिमेंबर द सेम फादर हु threatened to disown me, and that being a mark of cultural hypocrisy. So Vivek and I were invited to Harvard Business School in 2018 to speak at the India conference there. And it is then I remember my father writing like a 7-kilometer Facebook post saying, my visionary son and his visionary co-founder Vivek Gupta. और एकदम हर एंगल से फोटो जिसमें मैं भी नहीं हूँ, हार्वर्ड की कोई प्राचीन फोटो भी लगा दी है. But see the difference. That the difference between a visionary and a fool is validation from an institute in Boston, America. And I remember telling Dad that, Dad, how many founders' dreams die at the doorstep of their homes because their parents just don't get it, right? They just don't get it. And therefore it's important to have a co-founder.
I was just telling Sumita in the lunchroom that if one of our son or kids pass out of college and say कि यार मुझे startup करना है, how many parents here will say कि चल बेटा जा कर, we are behind you. We are actually generally human beings are so in India so risk averse. So that is what it
But
is.
to actually go against the grain and not to seek validation in itself an act of bravery, because at that age when most of us are only looking for validation of our families, our social circles, etc., this is where I think entrepreneurs really do think differently and do things differently. I now want to also bring you in on this point about how you've been able to also manage a robust supply chain. You've been able to own the supply chain, and you've been able to change the habits of people, because people have very peculiar habits when it comes to meat. They want to themselves go. Black polythene, of course, is one side of it. Yeah. But a robust supply chain was at the core of your success?
Yeah. Actually, if you ask me, 8 साल में से 7 साल 9 महीने supply chain बनाई है. बाकी business तो just happened because of, I think, great product and great supply chain. So from day one, and this is also quoted, that in 24 hours business got shut. So I'll start from there. On day one, we actually created a great chicken. Okay, it's called gold-plated chicken in that era. सब कुछ उस पर बनाया, अच्छा चिकन है, मेल्ट इन माउथ. वी एक्चुअली डिड वन इवनिंग डिनर एंड कॉल्ड अराउंड 45 पीपल टू टेस्ट आवर चिकन, एंड फॉर 45 पीपल वी गॉट अराउंड 70 kg ऑफ चिकन. Okay, so we roasted ourselves, our own team, some 10 people we were roasting and giving them, and in the end we did not have dinner left for both of us. So 45 people ate that gold-plated chicken. So that's how Licious started. And when we launched, on day one, we said all the 10 people will get 50 references. So that's how first 500 orders were created. All the orders were late by 1 hour to 2 hours. Every single order we delayed because we did not build that part of supply chain. We just created a great product, and we quickly went back to drawing board and said कि यार अगर एक इंडिया में कंज्यूमर को वैल्यूएबल प्रोडक्ट, अच्छा प्रोडक्ट देना है, इट शुड टेस्ट वेल, ordering experience has to be great, it has to reach in time, and finally when it gets cooked, he has to say यार मजा आ गया. तो ये सारे part of supply chain I think are core for any business, and at Licious though we have done some insane amount of investment. For example, today 80% of chicken which we sell is grown in our own farms. अगर आप मुझसे पूछोगे किसी चिकन का पैकेट उठा के कि इस चिकन ने क्या खाया है, कितनी बार जिम गया है, कितना पानी पिया है, he can give you that data. So that is one kind of investment, and that is when you confidently put your product to consumer. Same way, this cold chain which Abhay was saying. By the way, I'll give you one interesting stats. 90% of Indian cold chain today is used to manage potatoes. That's all. Our cold chain infrastructure of the country is just used to manage potatoes. And fresh cold chain to bana hi nahi hai, it's only frozen. So that was another challenge. So we, from creating that last mile delivery bag to plants which operate in 0 to 4 degrees, every single thing has been built by us in-house, and one by one.
Since this is the core of most D2C companies, manufacturing or, ensuring a supply chain consistency and quality, Abhay, I want you to weigh in on this, on what did it really take for you to build a robust supply chain, because we have about 800 plus D2C brands. Most of them have outsourced these facilities to others, and which is where, the gap comes in as far as ensuring quality is concerned and the not so good products.
Yeah, I think D2C is a highly abused word in India. So I don't know too many real D2C companies. I think D2C companies are the companies that own their consumer and know everything about their consumer by selling on Amazon, Flipkart, Nykaa, Myntra. I don't think you're D2C companies. So, and like you rightly said, मतलब यहाँ से एक शैम्पू पैक होता है, सेम बॉटल में जाता है और फिर वहाँ पे स्टिकर चेंज हो जाता है और पैकेजिंग चेंज हो जाती है. यार, so we realized that this is food and food is personal, and this is a category that mattered to the consumers. You know, it had a vivid imagination. So, you know, with no offense, I know very few, you know, people who can, you know, dream about bhindi in their night or stuff, right? But meat is like, you know, consumers really love it. Yeah. So the idea was to always put life into, you know, what was otherwise a dead animal, right? So coming to supply chain, then therefore, you know, we traveled the world here. We went to countries where the first organization of the sector happened. So Vivek and I went to Korea, Japan, China, and we saw the infrastructure and the companies, because Japan mein everything is sold fresh. So we saw, and we were able to reimagine, what will it take for this to happen in India. It also meant that both of us, by the way, had to dilute significantly at the outset, because we realized that setting up something like this will require tremendous amounts of capital, right? I mean, to put up a plant, to have a cold fleet, you know, chain fleet and so on and so forth. It required that, but I think above all, it required an organizational culture. So it's easy to say quality and supply chain and cold chain, but, you know, there was an internal motto. We said that, yeah, we'll never sell what we will not feed our own families. And on day one, we had to sort of demonstrate that by walking the talk on values. I remember, you know, in Delhi when we launched our day one, and there's a very interesting anecdote. We barely had, हमारे पास पैसे नहीं होते थे और हमने गुड़गांव टाइम्स के फ्रंट पेज पे ऐड दे रखी थी, तो 10 लाख रुपए खर्चा किया था. और हम बहुत, you know, खुशी से तैयार थे कि कल बहुत सारी सेल होगी, दिल्ली का पहला दिन है. And you know, the truck came with our products, and you know, our SOP was 0 to 4 degrees, and the product came at 7 degrees. I still remember, and our QA folks rejected the entire lot. And you know, head office में पूरा आग लग गया कि यार 2-2.5 टन माल कैसे रिजेक्ट हो गया. कल हमने अखबार में मशहूरी दे रखी है, कल एड्स आएंगे, ऑर्डर्स आएंगे. But we said this is where the organization's culture will get tested. So we will go out of stock for the whole day. We'll let the 10 lakh rupees, whatever that was, you know, go down the drain. But we will not sell what we will not feed our own families. And that became an example that this is a company that means what it says, you know. So 0 to 4 is not a lexicon. It's a value that you will live and die by. So I think it is a combination of these things. And therefore today we have, you know, built what possibly, you know, no one in the world has built in terms of cold chain for perishables.
Which is what really differentiates you from the rest, and which is what really defines as one of the pillars of your success. Vivek, I want to also bring you in here. When Abhay says that most D2C brands, or a lot of D2C brands, ticker chipka dete hain, same product hai, is that a bubble that's waiting to be burst?
यार वो तो मैं कैसे बताऊंगा बबल है कि नहीं,
क्योंकि अपने असेसमेंट से, ऑब्जर्वेशन से बताइए.
आई थिंक अपने दिल पे हाथ रखो और बोलो किसी ब्रांड को देख के कि ये 100 साल तक जिंदा रहेगा. ट्रू ब्रांड्स आर दैट. आई कैन स्वेयर अबाउट वन ब्रांड एंड देन यू कैन इक्वेट एवरी अदर ब्रांड. आई कैन स्वेयर बाय अमूल, यू नो, हु एक जमाने में 1990s में इंडिया वाज मिल्क डेफिशिएंट नेशन. And today, one corporation has changed the fortune of the country, and India is world's largest milk producing nation. By the way, we had same number of cows we had 30 years ago. So infrastructure tha, producer tha, cow thi, but you know, I think the way organization changed the fortune, and now you put with lenses like that, any other D2C brand. I can say the same thing about Licious, that 100 years after me and Abhay are gone, this brand will exist. Because this has been built with that kind of passion and that kind of belief and that kind of thinking on infrastructure or, you know, culture or quality norms. We always say, I'll give you one more data. We do roughly 1 million deliveries a month. Out of that, 92% deliveries per month come from repeat customers. Every month. So अगर हम मार्केट नहीं करेंगे तो 90-95% धंधा हर महीना रिपीट कस्टमर देता है. और वो क्यों देता है? Why do you think? It's not about brand. It is about the product which we deliver every time at home.
Product and eventually the brand, and you know, speaks volumes about the fact that how you've been able to build brand loyalty in a segment which is seeing a lot of new brands spring up. You know, you have over 800 plus D2C brands, like I said, and it's expected to grow over 5x over the next 5 years. So what did it really take for Licious to build brand loyalty in terms of how you promote the brand, in terms of, experiences that you gave to consumers, Abhay?
But I think see, it was very clear from day one that we will be a brand and not a horizontal company, right? We could have always taken the horizontal approach and sort of gone listed on big basket. And I think when it comes to brand, number one, I think is product has to be greater than the proposition. So, good marketing can kill a bad product much faster. What we realized very early on is that यार ये category को legitimize करने के लिए again, you will really have to like change the narrative in a big way, right? So very early on, for example, we engaged celebrities. I remember the first time since India's independence, a meat company played its advertisement on prime time at 8 o'clock. And, we were besieged with complaints saying कि हम जी खाना खा रहे थे, meat का ad कैसे आ गया? So you think about it, people were shocked, right? But then when Anil Kapoor said something, or Junior NTR said something, or whoever, I mean, today, a bunch of celebs are on our roster, but it was so shocking and new, but, it had to be done. If this category had to be bought out of the closet, it had to be done. So I think it was necessary in some sense to go ahead and over-invest in category creation. And we are glad that as a result of that, many founders got the courage to start up in the sector. There has been a lot of entrepreneurship since in the sector. We know a lot of B2B folks who sort of build. I know people who are building protein companies. I know people who are building offline companies in Delhi. People have written to both of us from Guwahati, and we're not saying that, hey, we are thinking of building, something online here, right? So it gives you a lot of courage and confidence that, look, shuruaat to ho gayi hai. And the only way to have done it is by somebody to have done, this for the category. And look, I mean, that's what category creation is about. Me and Vivek keep saying that, yaar, हमने समाज सेवा की है, and again I have built the point कि यार, founders dilute, ahead of their times, bring in VC, private equity money, but this is the joy, because you end up creating an industry which was not there otherwise.
And I think एक अच्छा brand बनाने के लिए ना, you don't need just great marketing. You also need a big purpose. And our purpose is not that यार की meat बना के बेचना है. Our purpose is that all of us who eat meat deserves better meat. And that purpose is driving us. And if any of you have noticed our packaging, on day one, we launched a white color, beautiful looking box. And all our investors, advisors said कि यार food में white color की packaging चलती नहीं है, गंदी हो जाती है. And you are also dealing with, such a, tricky food. And we said, यार, point is not white. Point is we are fighting black.
So very important point that you bring about, Vivek. Abhay, let me come to you on this, issue of investors. आपको और क्या discouragement मिली investors से? Because from my research has told me that there was one Indian investor who decided to invest in your company, but the rest, most of them at least initially, were German, Russian and Korean investors.
I think...
Be careful.
क्या problem था? Personal bias?
यार, तो मैंने और विवेक ने वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट को अपना एक टर्मिनोलॉजी दे दिया था उस टाइम पे, बट आई डोंट वांट टू टॉक अबाउट इट हियर, बट यार, देयर वाज जस्ट अ लॉट ऑफ पर्सनल बायस, नंबर वन, वी गॉट अ लॉट ऑफ एडवाइस कि कोल्ड चेन नेटवर्क बनाया तो पनीर कर लो, दूध कर लो, क्योंकि कोल्ड चेन बनाया है. हाँ, अच्छा, कोल्ड चेन अपनी रेंट पे दे दो, पैलेट्स कर लो, एसेट्स को स्वेट कर लो, मोनेटाइज कर लो. तो प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि जब लोग बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ाई कर, देखो इंडिया में जो वीसी है ना, वो फाउंडर नहीं है. सब हार्वर्ड, वॉटन, स्टैनफोर्ड इसे पढ़ के आते हैं और फिर यहाँ पे कई करोड़ों की सैलरी लेके घुस जाते हैं और फिर ज्ञान देते हैं, सिलिकॉन वैली वाला. तो इंडिया में किसी ने बिल्ड नहीं किया है, बिल्ड करके कोई वीसी बना नहीं है. तो इतना ज्ञान वो अनलिमिटेड होता है. तुमको पता है यूएस में ये हो रहा है, तुमको पता है कैलिफोर्निया में ये हो रहा है, मैं कहता हूँ तुम्हें पता है शास्त्री नगर में क्या हो रहा है, शास्त्री नगर किधर है, तो दिस इज द वर्ल्ड व्यू. तो आप समझो कि एक इंट्यूशन फॉर अ कैटेगरी कैसे आएगी, मतलब जब तक आप सड़क पे नहीं उतरोगे, जब तक आप ज़मीन पे नहीं जाओगे, जब तक आपको समझ ही नहीं आएगा कि यार किसान कौन होता है, कि हिंदुस्तान में आज जो है वो ऐसा क्यों है. तो आई थिंक वो एजेंसी और वो इंट्यूशन और वो हर चीज़ पे ब्रॉड ब्रश लगा देना कि इसमें एआई कहाँ है, इसमें टेक कहाँ है ना. तो
या एक क्वेश्चन था कि यूएस में तो मीट सीधा फ्रोजन में बिकता है, तो व्हाई आर यू नॉट स्टार्टिंग अ फ्रोजन ब्रांड? अब मेरे को बताइए इंडिया में हम क्या खाते हैं फ्रोजन? दो चीज़ें मुझे मालूम है, आइसक्रीम, कॉर्न, आई थिंक मटर भी खाते हैं आजकल.
आप खाते हैं.
हाँ, दैट्स ऑल. तो फिर फ्रोजन ब्रांड इंडिया में कैसे, खोलने से पहले बंद हो जाती कंपनी?
तो यही था यार कि चाइना में दिखाओ, यूएस में दिखाओ, आईआईटी नहीं हो, आईएम नहीं हो, ये सब की. तो द लॉट ऑफ बायसेर और हिम्मत नहीं थी यार. आई थिंक द अदर थिंग आई रिमेंबर, वन वीसी रियली लाइक्ड अस, बट ही बाय द एंड ऑफ द मीटिंग वाज स्क्रैचिंग हिज हेड. ही सेड कि यार मुझे तुम लोग बहुत अच्छे लग रहे हो, बट एक प्रॉब्लम है. तो मैं बताओ क्या प्रॉब्लम है. कहते देखो यार, तुम एक बैकएंड में तुम सोर्सिंग कर रहे हो, स्केल पे कमोडिटी सोर्सिंग कर रहे हो, फिर तुम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लांट लगा रहे हो, तो तुम मैन्युफैक्चरर बन रहे हो, फिर तुम लास्ट माइल में कोल्ड चेन डिलीवरी नेटवर्क यू आर सेटिंग अप, एंड दिस इज मेकिंग यू अ कोल्ड चेन लॉजिस्टिक्स कंपनी, एंड इन ऑल ऑफ दिस यू आर ऑल्सो बिल्डिंग एन ऐप. सो दिस लुक्स लाइक अ यू आर ट्राइंग टू डू अ टेक प्ले. So I'm not sure if you two, with no background, no pedigree, nothing, will be able to pull off this, because this has never happened before that somebody is able to build 4 companies to build 1 company. And we were like, यार अगर ये सारा नहीं करेंगे तो ये होगा ही नहीं. तो then मेरे से तो इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं होगी, मैं ये क्लियर नहीं करा पाऊंगा. So that is what it was.
From that point when, investors were really questioning the idea of the startup, to Vivek now, so many other companies are also getting into this sort of quick commerce model, if I may say so. You also have Flipkart reportedly looking at entering into this space. Zomato has earlier also stated that they expect their quick commerce model to work more profitably than, of course, the core brand. So how do you plan to sort of stay ahead of competition? Because competition is not just from your startup brands, but also from legacy brands that are waiting on the sidelines, looking to jump into the fray, and also the likes of Flipkart.
ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है बाय द वे. तो इस पे मेरा एक बड़ा डिफरेंट व्यू है. सी दोज आर कॉमर्स कंपनीज, वी आर प्रोडक्ट कंपनी. कॉमर्स कंपनीज और प्रोडक्ट कंपनीज compete नहीं करती हैं. प्रोडक्ट कंपनीज कॉमर्स कंपनीज के ऊपर अपना प्रोडक्ट बेचती हैं, राइट. सो अमेजोन के ऊपर दुनिया भर के ब्रांड बेचते हैं. इंडिया में भी वी partner with some of these companies, and while they don't have that great cold chain, that's why meat has not scaled in the other commerces, but in the long run that is how it will happen. But if commerce company जो मतलब retailer है, आप समझो एक रिटेल की दुकान है, ओके, वो हिंदुस्तान लिवर से थोड़ा ना लड़ता है. हिंदुस्तान लिवर अपने प्रोडक्ट्स वहाँ लिस्ट करता है. आई थिंक सो दैट इज हाउ वी डिस्टिंग्विश. वी आर अ प्रोडक्ट कंपनी. वी हैव बिल्ट कॉमर्स बिकॉज देयर वाज नो अदर कॉमर्स कंपनी अवेलेबल early in our life to list and set up that kind of cold chain.
And we're a high touch product company. See that you can retailers can white label toilet paper, toilet cleaner, tissue paper, bathroom brush, some stuff like that, but just my consumer, intuition doesn't matter. Ultimately, this is something you're putting in your mouth, right? So I think we are a high touch sort of, product as well. So therefore, and Vivek, you can sort of continue, but I thought I should add this.
Okay, so what about profitability? Because that's, of course, the holy grail and how it should be. I mean, we've seen the past 2-3 years, there's been a startup funding of sorts, VCs becoming more and more careful about how money is spent, of course, preferring profitability over growth. What is your status?
Yeah, obviously, I think last couple of years, the mood has changed. By the way, entrepreneurs don't change their mood यार. They are in long term. उनको 2 साल ऊपर नीचे ज़िंदगी में फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. अगले 25 साल यही करना है जब तक जिंदा हैं. So, but I think investor sentiment is towards profitability. So we are like 6-8 months away from final profitability. So we are not that worried. Money is there. But I think it is important. I think बहुत सारे startups ने, including us, made few mistakes in the middle. You end up riding the wave. But I think it is important to keep eye on profitability in real time. So check रखना वो बहुत ज़रूरी है.
And hence you have eyes on an IPO as well anytime soon?
अब I don't know soon, अगर 2 साल को soon बोलते हैं तो soon, but roughly 2.5
एक आप अपना
years.
point of view भी दीजिए IPOs के ऊपर, because a lot of companies are IPOing considering the retail investment boom, etc., the kind of returns that the markets are offering, which is not really the same as IPOs of 2021 perhaps.
See, Mirex, I come from finance. I have a very simple thing. I used to tell Abhay. So Abhay asked me this question: when will Licious go IPO? I said, जब मैं public का पैसा ले लूँगा, then I will lose the right to burn that money. If once I reach there, कि हर साल हम dividend दे सकते हैं, profit cash generate कर सकते हैं, that is when I think companies do IPO, and that is when Licious will do IPO. If this simple equation is set, I think we will do fundamentally much better than any other public markets.
Okay, I want to understand from you, Abhay, what are your expansion plans now that, Licious is not just a meat and seafood startup or a company rather. You also have snacks selling on your platform, other related items selling your platform. You're going into the niche of this segment. What are your expansion plans?
Sir, actually, this is a very deep category. If I put this in perspective, we're in NCR, and NCR alone consumes 21,000 crores worth of meat and seafood. So this should tell you, the staggering sort of, and what is Licious's business here? 250 crores. I think that's our scale. So I think there's a hell of a lot of a market still left to be penetrated. So therefore, see, up until now, Licious built a direct-to-consumer channel because, trade was not ready, supply chain was getting built out, customer experience and tech was getting built out, our product capabilities were getting built out. But today, I think we are at an interesting stage where we can expand Licious by building it like a true omni-channel brand. So I think that's one immediate sort of next step that we see. And like I told you earlier, we didn't go online because we wanted to start online. Offline wasn't ready, right? So today, I think the time has come. And I think as a next immediate step, we want to just double down on that and continue to go deeper in our existing markets. We don't see the need to add 3 more new business lines or new categories over and above whatever we've built. We believe that this largely represents the consumer's consumption sort of share, and we just need to now be wherever the consumer is. And I think that's an interesting stage for us.
Vivek, what does it really take if somebody wants to get into the D2C space that's hotting up, especially post-COVID, and has really redefined retail in a new way? How does one scale up? Where does one start? Who do you offer to? What do you offer? Pricing, and how do you scale up?
I think सबसे पहले a problem statement and a differentiated product is extremely, extremely important. If you are selling any kind, whether it is cosmetics, whether it is food, etc., I think product की importance बहुत ज़रूरी है. If a long-term business has to be built, if a consumer consumes your product and he's not able to tell the difference, there is no business. I think this is step number 1. And if that product is right, I start with one city and one channel. So if you are online, just stay online. If you are selling your product on Amazon, just stay with Amazon, Flipkart, etc. for some time and look for consumer feedback. If consumer is liking your product, the best thing which will happen is referrals and repeat, and that will grow the business. Everything else can come in times. You can add more channels, you can add offline, you can add distribution, because every channel and every location is costly. So early in the life, entrepreneurs don't have that much of money to make mistakes. So best is solve 2-3 fundamentals and then scale.
Abhay, you want to comment on this? On scaling up a D2C brand?
I think founders also go too wide. I think in terms of product focus also, ki ye nahi to wo, I think Vivek has covered that. So in our mind, yes, I think depth, and then I think, see, marketing, you should only do once you've crossed PMF, right? So I think you need to define PMF very clearly. If your net new customer addition and net repeat equation is still in the minus, no amount of marketing money is going to save you. right? So
Yeah,
it's a leaky bucket.
We became unicorn in 6 years of our start operations, right? But first 2.5 years we were only in Bangalore. Then we learned it, back to back we launched cities, back to back we launched plants, etc. And still caught up the same speed which let's say investors expect. So I think शुरू में ना वो hockey curve बनाने के लिए just keep building the fundamentals. Even if it takes slightly longer, it's fine. If the product is right fundamental, you'll catch up the speed.
Just one more thing, I think we both sort of learned it, in time. And of course, today it's become a moat is that, I think as founders, you need to have the leanest cost structure from day one. The leanest cost structure from day one will allow you to scale. Your cost structure will otherwise be your greatest impediment and limitation. So this founders don't focus on at all. They just don't focus on building. It doesn't matter what premium you're really selling your product at, but your cost structure, your negotiations, that attitude of frugality on day one, that should not leave you, because that is the difference between being able to scale at speed and not. So
I want to ask a couple of personal questions, but before that, let me ask you your thoughts on India's startup ecosystem. I mean, we've seen the Prime Minister speak about how, we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world, over 1 lakh DPIIT registered startups, over 100 unicorns. And, Minister Piyush Goyal was also stating that this is India's time and we must not miss the bus. When India or the Prime Minister really speaks about the fact that we need to not just build in India, but build for the world. Where do you see India's role in that? And can India really do that?
Why not? I don't see a single reason why not. I think the one thing that will really help is if entrepreneurship is actually brought into the school curriculum at a very early stage. I think if children can be taught to take risks on the school playground and saying, "Beta, gir jao, kuch nahi hota." If you can teach them that, then I think that learning should be extended to life. There are communities in India which we say they are business communities. We have almost sort of branded them ki Gujaratis, Marwadis, Banyas, Sindhis, Delhi Punjabis, So there's something about what their parents sort of pass on to them. So one is obviously that, but I'm very excited here. I look at India's founders, and me and Vivek are lucky to have partnered with many, many founders as angel investors as well. And you look at the complexity of the problems that they are picking up. It's not funny. The sort of vision that some of the Indian founders are carrying and building truly for India products. I think it's creating global templates, if not global products, right? I mean, so many times we get reached out by, entrepreneurs from different parts of the world. The other day, somebody from Indonesia reached out to us and said, "Hey, I'm building the Licious of Indonesia." Somebody said, "Hey, I'm building the Licious of Egypt." Somebody in India told, me and Vivek, they're building a fresh vegetable startup and said, "We are building the Licious of vegetables." So when Licious becomes a verb for something, then that it is becoming a template for entrepreneurs, right? So, and there is so many such, companies in India. So yeah, of course, India's time is here, but what that will take is, for all of us, the society at large, and there are so many parents sitting in the room. I think if anything, give your children to, the wings to take risks and don't try to protect them. Because if we can get 10 founders out of this room or 3 founders out of this room,
So the question then is, what does it really take for one to become a founder, to become an entrepreneur? Of course, you've mentioned about being risk averse. You should be able to sort of jump in at the idea that you truly believe in. What else?
I think
You also say it and then we'll go to Vivek.
थोड़ा पागलपन होना चाहिए यार, I think. I think you need a bit of madness. Without madness, there is no creation. I think you can't create logically. Creation needs you to look at some things in an obtuse way, in a strange way, in a tangential way. And once you're able to look at it like that, eventually you are able to get the whole world to look at it that way. So for me, that's like the number one ingredient. Vivek?
And which is where having a co-founder really helps. Vivek, you weigh in on this.
I'll tell you my story. So 2012, I wanted to do something. I had not a friend like Abhay. I had everything else around me sorted. I had one investor who was ready to give me money, but कहीं ना कहीं ना हो नहीं रहा था. और 2015 में only thing changed is कि there was another पागल with me who held my hand and he said यार चल छलांग लगाते हैं, we'll find our wings on the way. And after that everything is history. So co-founder obviously helps. So it belief, as you said, belief, commitment, pagalpan, I think this is very important. One thing I'll say, जब मैंने Licious शुरू किया था, can I do this for next 30 years I'm alive? If that answer is yes, I think वो human will 100% become the most successful entrepreneur. I can bet it.
So you are the Jay to his Viru? Who is the one?
I am the Motu.
Who dies in the end?
कौन मरता है
I'm
भाई?
talking more from a personality type.
अमिताभ बच्चन. हाँ, I am Viru. He is Jay. हाँ.
वो कौन है? जय कौन था? अमिताभ बच्चन.
नहीं जय तो वो पानी की टंकी पे चढ़ गया था ना.
धर्मेंद्र.
मौसी मैं जान दे दूंगा.
Viru, you're...
हाँ तो मैं वीरू हूँ ना, वो जय, वही तो बोल रहा हूँ.
तू चढ़ गया था.
हाँ मैं चढ़ गया.
Yeah. So I want to now dive into a rapid fire, considering that we have the OG of rapid fire, Mr. Karan Johar, going to be gracing the gathering this evening. So let's do a quick rapid fire. Abhay, first to you, 3 things that a founder needs to have. You've spoken about it pretty much, but okay, one more we'll add.
Ma.
What is the question? Sorry.
3 things that the founder needs to have apart from what we already said.
Abhay.
How sweet. And if not a startup founder, you'd be?
Do I know?
If not a startup founder, you'd be?
If not a startup founder, I would be lost.
But you also wanted to be a comedian, I read somewhere.
I'm already doing comedy, you know. So many people already laugh.
Professional.
I'm paid to do this.
Okay. If not a startup founder, you'd be?
I'll be in the consumer ecosystem doing investing.
Okay. And your
पैसे होंगे तो.
and your favorite startups from the current ones that we have?
There's a company called Rosanna, which I recently invested in, and I'm on the board. But it is very close to my heart after
Any
Licious.
other company other than Rosanna?
Mokobara.
Yep. You?
Startup that I admire?
That is your favorite amidst the current ones.
यार ग्रो ने अच्छा काम किया है. हाँ, I think
Agree.
investing.
Agree. And one fallacy that you want to bust.
One fallacy that I want to bust.
Yeah. About your sector, about overall entrepreneurship, about...
That you can do very well in spite your limitations. मतलब I think ambition is always greater than resources. People think that resources matter if you need to do something in life. It's not true. You don't need any resources to do well. You just need ambition.
And best piece of advice you got, Vivek?
Yeah, there are a lot of entrepreneurs who come to me and say यार कि उसको पैसे मिले हैं, मुझे नहीं मिले हैं. And I say यार दूसरों में fault ढूंढना बंद करो. I think fault is in your own either idea, either commitment or something about you. So look inside, you will always find the problem, fix it and then raise money, you'll get it.
Best piece of advice you got?
That this too shall pass. I've also tattooed it on my arm. तो कोई भी खुशी हो, कोई भी गम हो, कोई भी award हो, कोई भी पिटाई मिल रही हो, I think everything is temporary. Don't take yourself too seriously.
One piece of advice that you have for VCs. Just say it.
I think don't mix personal biases for sure. You know, अगर मैं ये कुछ यूज़ करता हूँ और वही मैं इन्वेस्ट करूँगा, that is I think 100% wrong. And bring entrepreneurs on your advisory board. They'll change fortune for the VCs.
Abhay, you can't say that.
I can't say that.
You can't say that, he's already said it.
यार I would say to VCs जाके थोड़ी नौकरी वोकरी कर लो किसी स्टार्टअप में, पहले थोड़ा सीख लो कि काम कैसे होता है, फिर आके ज्ञान देना. That's what I would say.